There comes a moment in life when you look at someone you once gave everything to and you realize they stopped seeing your worth a long time ago. You gave your time, your love, your loyalty. You were always there even when they didn't deserve your presence. But now, there's silence, there's coldness, there's indifference, and it cuts deep because you never expected them to be the one to devalue you. But let me tell you something, right now, your value was never based on someone else's ability to recognize it. You're not less valuable because they stopped choosing you. You're not less beautiful because they stopped complimenting you. You're not less powerful because they stopped believing in you. Their blindness doesn't cancel your brilliance. So here's what I want you to try. One simple shift, one powerful move, one soul-free action. Pull back, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Not to punish them, but to protect you. Step back and watch what happens. Because the moment you stop chasing people who no longer see your light is the moment you step into your power. And baby, when you do that, the whole world starts to shift. There are moments in life when you've said all you could say. You've explained yourself, repeated your truth, tried to make them see your heart, and still nothing changed. That's when you learn sometimes silence is more powerful than speaking. You see, when a person doesn't value you, your words become background noise. They don't listen to understand. They listen to reply, defend, dismiss, and it hurts because you're trying so hard to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. But you can't force someone to value what they no longer recognize. That's when silence steps in. Silence doesn't beg, it doesn't plead, it doesn't chase, it simply removes itself. And in doing so, it demands attention louder than any argument ever could. The absence of your voice will echo louder than the presence of your words. And when your silence enters the room, it shifts the energy entirely. People take for granted what they assume will always be there. And when you're constantly available, always picking up the phone, always forgiving without change, always showing up even when they stop appreciating, it teaches them they don't have to change. But when you stop showing up, when you stop responding, when you stop fighting to be understood, everything changes. Silence forces them to face themselves because your absence becomes a mirror. Without you filling the space with your words and presence, they're left with the weight of their own actions. And that discomfort, that silence, that's where truth begins to settle in. That's when they finally hear what they ignored. And it's not because you raised your voice, it's because you withdrew it. You're no longer in the conversation. But your absence is screaming. It's screaming, I'm done trying to fix what you refuse to see is broken. You don't owe anyone constant access to your energy, especially when they've proven they'll only waste it. Every time you argue, defend, or explain, you're giving them another opportunity to disrespect you. But silence removes that chance. It creates space. It draws a boundary that words often fail to hold. Silence isn't passive. It's powerful. It says, I'm not available for mistreatment anymore. And what's more powerful than walking away from someone who expected you to stay no matter what? When you stop speaking, you reclaim control. You take back the power you kept giving away every time you tried to convince them to value you. Silence protects your dignity. It reminds you that not everything deserves a reaction. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every broken promise deserves another chance. Sometimes your silence is your survival. It's your statement. It's your healing in action. There's a sacred strength in not responding. In a world full of noise, where people talk over each other, shout opinions, and demand to be right, choosing to say nothing becomes a bold declaration. It's saying, I don't need to convince you, I know who I am. And that confidence, that quiet strength, it makes people uncomfortable. Because people expect you to react, they expect you to be emotional, to plead, to explain. But when you don't, when you calmly step back and let the silence speak, it disrupts their control. They no longer get to shape the narrative. You're no longer participating in the chaos. You're not giving them fuel, and that confuses them. That bothers them. Because your silence reveals more than your words ever could. It shows growth, it shows clarity, and most of all, it shows that you've moved on, even if you're still in the same room. Sometimes the most painful silence is the one that follows unconditional love. When you've been everything to someone, when you've sacrificed love without limits, stood by them when no one else would, and they still couldn't value it, silence becomes your only option. Because words won't fix someone who's blind to your worth. You start to realize that continuing to explain yourself only deepens the wound. Every conversation becomes a reminder that they're not listening. So instead of reopening that pain, you heal in silence. You detach, you let go. Not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself more now. You've cried in silence, you've prayed in silence, and now you rise in silence. No announcement, no drama, just distance, just peace. And let me tell you, peace is the loudest thing in the world. When someone's used to your chaos, when they realize your peace includes their absence, that's when they truly start to feel the loss. People always say they want closure, but sometimes closure doesn't come with a conversation, it comes with quiet. It comes when you realize that not every story needs to be resolved in words. Some stories end when you stop writing them, when you put down the pen and walk away. That's the silence that brings closure, not because you got the answers, but because you stopped needing them. You stopped needing validation. You stopped needing their apology. You stopped needing them to see the damage they caused. That's freedom. That's growth. That's strength. And it doesn't come easy. It comes after you've tried, after you've cried, after you've broken your own heart trying to heal someone else. But when it comes, it feels like breathing again. It feels like finding yourself beneath the rubble of someone else's neglect. And that version of you, the one who stopped speaking and started healing, is unstoppable. There will be people who say you changed, and yes, you did. You changed the moment you realized silence isn't giving up, it's leveling up. You changed when you understood your peace is more important than anyone's opinion. When someone stops valuing you, you don't yell, you don't argue, you don't beg. You go quiet. You reclaim your time. You pour that same energy back into yourself. And the irony is, the very moment you stop trying to be heard is when they finally start listening. But by then, your silence has already spoken. And it says this: I've done enough. It says, I've given all I can give. It says, I'm not angry, I'm finished. That's not cold. That's clarity. That's not petty. That's power. Because silence, when rooted in self-respect, speaks volumes. It doesn't whisper, it roars. And those who once ignored your voice will one day feel the weight of your silence. Let them wonder why you stopped calling. Let them question why you no longer show up. Let them sit in the silence they created when they decided your presence didn't matter. That silence, that distance, that's not revenge. That's revelation. It's the moment they realize they lost something rare. And you're no longer waiting for their recognition. You're not hoping they'll come around. You've already moved on, gracefully, quietly, and in that silence, you found something more precious than their approval. You found yourself. And now nothing can pull you back to that old version of you, the one who tolerated being undervalued. Because once you've tasted peace, once you've felt the power of silence, you don't go back to noise. You walk forward with your head high, with your soul healed, with your voice intact, even if you choose not to use it, because now you know silence is the loudest truth of all. There comes a point in your life when you stop offering your energy to people who don't honor it. You stop explaining yourself to those who never cared to understand. You begin to understand deeply that your presence is a gift, not something people are entitled to, not something they should expect without effort. You've cried for people who wouldn't blink if you vanished. You've shown up for people who disappeared when it was your turn to need support. And yet, you kept giving, believing loyalty would be returned. But now you see clearly, being around you, hearing your voice, feeling your love, receiving your time, that's not guaranteed. That's earned. And if someone doesn't treat your presence like the treasure it is, then they don't deserve it. You don't chase anymore. You don't beg. You don't plead for space in someone else's life. You know your worth now, and you protect it fiercely. You used to confuse being needed with being valued. You thought the more you gave, the more they'd love you. You broke yourself into pieces to keep others whole, believing your sacrifice would mean something. But people who expect your loyalty while offering you indifference do not deserve access to you. Just because someone has a title in your life, a friend, a partner, or even family, doesn't mean they're entitled to you. Your energy is sacred. Your heart is gold, and not everyone should get to touch that. Some people only show up when it's convenient. They're present when they benefit, but disappear when it's your turn to lean. And that's not love. That's transaction. So now you measure people by their consistency, not their charm. By how they act when you're in need, not when you're useful. Because your presence is not a reward for manipulation. It's a reflection of mutual respect. It takes pain to get to this level of clarity. You don't wake up one day and just decide to pull back. You get pushed there. After being overlooked, talked over, taken for granted, you finally snap. But your snapping doesn't look like yelling anymore. It looks like silence. It looks like distance. It looks like unreturned calls and unanswered messages. Not out of hate, but out of self-love. Because when you finally realize your worth, your tolerance changes. You start walking away from half-hearted connections, from one-sided relationships, from emotional crumbs. You stop explaining why you left, because real ones never make you explain your absence. They already know what they lost. And when you start moving like your presence is a privilege, everything shifts. The way you speak, the way you carry yourself. You no longer settle for being tolerated. You demand to be respected. And that silent shift, that's your power. Some people won't notice your absence until your presence becomes a memory, and by then it's too late. Because you gave chances, you gave grace, you gave time, but you're not giving your soul to people who treat it like an option. Your love is deep, your loyalty is rare, and your spirit brings peace into rooms that were once chaotic. But even light can dim when it's surrounded by darkness too long. And you got tired of being strong for everyone else while nobody checked if you were okay. Tired of showing up when your absence wouldn't have even been questioned. So now you show up for you. You pour into people who pour back. You celebrate those who celebrate you. And to those who don't, you disappear, not out of spite, but out of growth. Because your healing no longer includes people who refuse to evolve with you. Let them misunderstand your silence. Let them twist your withdrawal into ego or coldness. Let them wonder why you changed. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. People will call you distant once they lose access to you, but they never cared about you while they had access. They were comfortable because you made life easier. You listened, you understood, you stayed even when your spirit screamed to leave. But now your loyalty is no longer blind, it's earned, it's reciprocated, it's reserved. You're not arrogant, you're aware. And awareness is dangerous to those who benefited from your unawareness. You've outgrown the role of being someone's emotional crutch, their last resort, their backup plan. Your time, your energy, your soul, it's gold. And you don't hand gold to people who only come around when they're empty. Let them find their own light. You've got your own fire to protect now. They didn't see your worth because they never truly looked. You were showing up in ways they didn't know how to value. You were the calm in their storm, the shoulder in their chaos, the one who stayed silent when you could have shouted. And yet they mistook your peace for weakness. They saw your humility as availability. But now the shift has happened. You no longer show up where your soul doesn't feel safe. You no longer give to places that leave you empty. Because now you understand. Your presence isn't ordinary. It uplifts. It strengthens. It heals. You walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere just by being yourself. And if someone can't see that, it's not your job to teach them. It's your job to protect yourself. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. You are here to walk in it boldly and without apology. They had your kindness and they thought it was weakness. They had your consistency and thought it was obligation. They had your loyalty and thought it was desperation. But now they're left with the echo of what used to be. You gave more chances than you should have. You believed in them longer than they deserved. But now your heart has learned to set boundaries, to say no without guilt, to love from a distance if necessary. Because your presence is light, but even light knows when to walk away from those who live in shadow. You are not cold, you are not bitter, you are awakened. And when you awaken to your worth, you stop asking people to sit at your table. You simply build a new one and only invite those who bring peace, respect, and reciprocity. You're no longer begging to be chosen. You choose yourself. And that's the shift that changes everything. If they wanted you around, they would have acted like it. If they valued your presence, they would have cherished it, not exploited it. And now that you've gone quiet, gone still, gone absent, they start to realize what you brought to the table. But by the time they realize, you've already outgrown their table. You're not angry. You're evolved. You're not distant. You're done. And that is the difference, because once you know who you are, you stop giving away pieces of yourself just to feel loved. You stop shrinking to fit into places that never honored your full size. You stop chasing those who let you walk away without a second thought. You move like royalty, not because you're better, but because you've remembered you were never meant to be treated like less. Your presence is a privilege, and from this moment forward, only those who see it, treat it, and honor it like one will get to experience it. Detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring so much for your peace, your sanity, and your purpose that you no longer allow things to control you. When you reach that level where your emotions are no longer dictated by someone else's behavior, where your worth isn't shaken by rejection, where silence doesn't scare you, you unlock a level of freedom few ever find. Detachment doesn't mean coldness. It means clarity. It means you finally understood what drains you, what distracts you, what destabilizes you, and you've made the decision to protect yourself from it. People will tell you you've changed. They'll say you don't care like you used to. But what they're really saying is they can't manipulate your feelings like before. You're no longer available for emotional games. You're no longer breaking yourself to keep others comfortable. Because once you realize your peace is everything, you stop trading it for chaos. You used to respond to everything, every insult, every distance, every cold shoulder. You felt the need to fix it, to chase it, to heal it, but not anymore. Now you observe. You watch people show you who they are, and instead of trying to rewrite the story, you close the book. You don't seek closure from others, you give it to yourself. Detachment has taught you that some people don't deserve explanations. Some people don't deserve access to your heart after they've proven they can't handle it. You've learned to love in silence, to walk away without a scene, to disconnect without burning bridges. Because you don't need revenge. Your healing is your closure. Your peace is your power. You finally realize that being unbothered isn't indifference, it's growth. It's self-respect. It's the wisdom to know that you are not obligated to stay in places that keep wounding you just because you once felt something there. There was a time when every unanswered call made your heart drop. Every delay in reply left you overthinking. Every shift in someone's tone made you question your worth. You were tied to outcomes, addicted to validation, trapped in emotional dependency. But detachment came like a quiet storm. Slowly you began to take your power back. You stopped waiting for the apology. You stopped explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stopped checking who stayed and who left. Because you realized the right ones don't need convincing. Now your energy is rooted. You don't beg. You don't chase. You don't force. Because if something costs you your peace, it's too expensive. Detachment gave you the space to see that sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. Not to hurt them, but to heal you. And in that healing, you rise quietly, strongly, fully aware of your worth. Detachment lets you sit in a room full of people and not feel the need to prove your place. It allows you to listen to criticism without letting it tear through your soul. It teaches you that silence is a weapon and stillness is strength. You no longer react, you respond. And sometimes that response is nothing at all. You're no longer afraid of losing people. You're afraid of losing yourself trying to keep them. And that shift, that's the difference between surviving and living. People don't understand how calm you've become because they never saw the storms you had to quiet inside yourself. You've detached from outcomes, from expectations, from needing people to behave the way you hoped. You now see people for who they are, not who you wish they'd be. And in that vision, you found freedom, because the moment you let go of control is the moment peace walks in and stays. You're not cold, you're focused. You're not heartless, you're just no longer handing your heart to people who drop it. Detachment gives you the strength to let people go without resentment, to forgive without reconnecting, to move on without looking back, because you've learned that not everyone can come with you. Some people are chapters, not endings. lessons, not lifelines. And the more you tried to drag them into your future, the more they held you in the past. So now you release with love. You disconnect with grace. You understand that letting go isn't failure, it's faith. Faith that what's ahead is greater than what's gone. Faith that protecting your peace is more important than preserving any bond that threatens it. You've given your all before, you've stayed too long before, and you've paid the price. But now, you're done overextending. You're done bleeding for people who don't even bring bandages. You choose you now. Detachment is a quiet decision that shouts in every room you walk into. It's in the way you don't react to shade. It's in the way you smile when you're left out. It's in the way you walk away from drama like it doesn't concern you. Because it doesn't. People try to provoke you, control you, define you, but they can't reach you anymore. You've created a distance between your peace and their chaos. And in that distance, you found power. Because once you've been burned by betrayal, disappointment, and false loyalty, you learn to stop playing with fire. You learn to stop lighting yourself up to keep others warm. And detachment isn't about isolation, it's about insulation. You're protecting your spirit now. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not everyone earns your response. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is not show up to the argument. You've already won by walking away. People confuse attachment with love, but love doesn't suffocate. Love doesn't demand you sacrifice your well-being. Love is not control or possession or emotional addiction. Detachment taught you that real love stands in freedom. It's not about gripping so tightly that everything breaks. It's about holding gently, knowing that if it's right, it won't run. You've detached from the belief that you have to suffer to prove you care. You've detached from the narrative that staying in pain is noble. Now you love yourself enough to walk away. You love yourself enough to rest. You love yourself enough to release. Detachment is not about becoming numb. It's about becoming wise. Wise enough to know that some things are not meant to be fixed. Some relationships were only there to teach you who you are. And you've learned, you've grown, you've evolved. Now your detachment isn't bitterness, it's alignment. You're aligned with peace, purpose, and protection. There's power in knowing you can love deeply and still walk away when that love becomes toxic. There's strength in caring and still choosing silence when drama knocks. You are no longer ruled by fear of loss. You are ruled by a higher calling to protect your energy, to preserve your peace, to honor your journey. Detachment has made you whole. It's made you sovereign. You're not emotionally numb. You're emotionally disciplined. You don't need to control people to feel safe. You don't need constant reassurance to feel worthy. Your worth comes from within now. And when you operate from that space, life changes. You stop begging. You stop suffering. You start living. Because no one is worth losing yourself for. Detachment didn't make you cold. It made you courageous. You finally learned that letting go is not the end. It's the beginning of everything real. And in that letting go, you finally found yourself. You've spent so long pouring into people who never even bothered to bring a cup. You gave your time, your energy, your loyalty, and pieces of your soul to people who didn't know how to receive it, much less reciprocate it, and it left you drained, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. But now, something inside you is changing. You're tired of waiting to be chosen. You're tired of bending until you break. You're done placing your worth in someone else's hands, hoping they treat it like gold. It's time to turn the faucet inward. It's time to pour into yourself. Every ounce of love, attention, kindness, validation, effort. You start giving that to you. You shift the focus. You are no longer chasing people. You're chasing growth. You're chasing peace. You're chasing the best version of yourself. And that version doesn't beg to be seen. That version sees herself. That version understands you were never empty. You were just overextended. When you start pouring into yourself, everything changes. Your priorities shift. Your energy becomes sacred. You start guarding your time like it's treasure, because it is. You no longer feel guilty for choosing yourself. You don't owe anyone explanations for protecting your peace. You finally understand that your healing is your responsibility. Your joy is your job. Your self-worth is your birthright, and no one gets to subtract from it anymore. You look in the mirror and start showing up for the person staring back. You begin to silence the noise, the outside opinions, the uninvited comparisons, the distractions pulling you away from yourself. Because you get it now. No one is coming to rescue you. You are your own hero. You are the one who wipes your tears, dusts yourself off, and keeps showing up. Not because life has been easy, but because you've decided you're worth the effort. Every day, every moment, every breath. Pouring into yourself isn't selfish, it's survival, it's sanity, it's strategy. You can't keep giving when you're running on fumes. You can't lift others if you're buried beneath your own exhaustion. For too long you thought selflessness meant self-neglect, but now you're learning the difference. You're learning that saying no doesn't make you unkind, it makes you aware. You're learning that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you control. And guess what? Not everyone gets access anymore. You've learned to reserve your energy for people, places, and passions that refill you, and in doing so you start to rise. You smile deeper, you breathe easier, you glow differently, because now your joy doesn't depend on what someone else gives you. It comes from within. It flows from your own self-respect, from your own healing, from your own soul choosing you over and over again. That's power. That's freedom. That's love. The kind that finally starts at home. When you shift the focus and pour into yourself, you realize how much of your life was spent waiting for approval, waiting for recognition, waiting for someone to notice your effort, your loyalty, your worth. But the truth is, the moment you stop waiting and start becoming, that's when you begin to live. You stop asking for permission to be seen. You stop shrinking to fit into places that were never built for you. You take up space. You speak up. You walk into rooms like you belong there because you do. You understand that being humble doesn't mean being invisible. You begin honoring your own talents, your own beauty, your own dreams. And the more you invest in yourself, the more you attract people who do the same. Because the world treats you how you treat you. And now that you're valuing yourself on a soul level, everything around you is starting to elevate too. You start showing up different when you've been pouring into yourself. You carry yourself like someone who knows they're enough. You walk like peace is your default. You speak with power because you no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. You just live it. People begin to notice, not because you're louder, but because you're grounded. You're not desperate for attention anymore. You're not chasing validation in empty places. You're not performing for love, you're becoming love. You've stopped asking for someone else to fill you up, you're already full. And that fullness spills over into your relationships, your work, your purpose. You become magnetic, not because of what you have, but because of who you are when you are aligned, healed, and whole. And it all started when you made a decision to stop waiting for the world to see you, and instead to see yourself. That shift, that's the beginning of transformation. People may not understand your shift. They might call you distant, guarded, self-absorbed. Let them. They don't know the battles you fought to get back to yourself. They don't know the nights you cried silently, the days you showed up on empty, the sacrifices you made just to survive. So when you start choosing you, when you start putting your needs first, when you stop breaking your back to please everyone, some people will be uncomfortable. Let them be. You're not here to carry their comfort. You're here to honor your calling. You're here to create a life that reflects the love you've finally learned to give yourself. And in doing so, you show others how it's done. You become a mirror, a blueprint, a quiet reminder that healing is possible. That self-love is not a trend. It's a revolution. And your participation in it is non-negotiable. Because for once, you're not abandoning yourself to be liked. The most beautiful part about pouring into yourself is that you stop needing people to complete you. You stop confusing attachment with love. You stop mistaking consistency for compatibility. You're no longer clinging to broken connections just to feel something. You've become the source. You're the love. You're the peace. You're the safe space you've been searching for. And now, every relationship you entertain must add to that, not take away from it. You've raised your standards not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. You've learned the hard way that not everyone deserves access to your heart. So now, you give wisely. You love with boundaries. You engage with discernment. And if someone doesn't meet the standard you've set through your own self-love, you don't lower it. You let them go because you're no longer afraid to be alone. You're afraid to lose yourself again. And that kind of clarity, that's what elevation looks like. When you truly begin to pour into yourself, your whole life shifts. Your mindset expands. Your circle tightens. Your goals sharpen. You're no longer living on autopilot, doing things just to keep others happy. You've finally woken up to the fact that your life is yours, and you're ready to live it with intention. Every morning becomes a declaration. I choose me. You stop running on empty and start overflowing. And that overflow, your healed energy, your renewed vision, your inner peace, it touches everything. Your creativity blooms, your confidence grows, your faith deepens. People start noticing the light in you, but what they don't see is that it came from the fire you walked through alone. You made it through what tried to break you. And now you're building brick by brick, day by day, moment by moment, not for anyone else, but for you. Because now, finally, you know you are worthy of your own love. Sometimes you don't need to confront people with long explanations or emotional outbursts. All you have to do is change your energy. Stop overgiving. Stop chasing. Stop explaining yourself. Stop checking in first. And then just watch. Watch their reaction. Watch how the people you thought loved you behave when you stop making everything about them. Watch how their tone shifts when you start choosing silence over argument. Watch how quickly the phone stops ringing when you're not the one always reaching out. That shift you feel when you finally pull your energy back, that's not pettiness. That's clarity. That's maturity. That's you learning to protect your peace. And the people who truly value you, they won't need a performance to stay connected. They'll notice the change and ask if you're okay. But the ones who only benefited from your presence will vanish the moment the benefit is gone. And that's your answer. You've been breaking your back to prove your worth to people who barely even notice the effort. You've been loud with love, consistent with care, and still overlooked. But when you decide to stop forcing things, when you finally put the weight down, you'll realize how much of the relationship was one-sided. You'll see who genuinely valued you and who was simply comfortable with your convenience. Because when someone truly cares, they feel your absence. They reach out not out of habit, but from the heart. And when they don't, that silence screams everything you need to know. People will reveal themselves when you remove your energy from the equation. Your absence is the loudest presence you can give. It exposes true intentions. It separates the real from the opportunistic. You'll be surprised how many people were only around because you made life easier for them. When they no longer benefit, they no longer show up. We live in a world where everyone says the right words, but actions always speak louder. So don't get caught up in what people say when they think you're watching. Pay attention to what they do when they think you've stopped caring. When you stop applauding them, do they still perform? When you stop praising them, do they still show up? People are comfortable with you as long as you play the role they've assigned. But the moment you stop, when you choose silence over small talk, peace over pleasing, growth over comfort, that's when their true nature comes to the surface. Watch how they handle your distance. Watch how they respond when you're no longer their emotional crutch. You'll find that some people only stayed close because they feared being alone, not because they valued you. And when you're no longer the one making sacrifices, they label you as distant. But that's projection, not truth. Your withdrawal is not punishment, it's preservation. It's you realizing that peace isn't found in begging for reciprocity. It's in observing who gives it freely. Some people only show up when it's convenient. They match your energy when it suits them, but disappear the moment you need the same in return. So stop begging, stop reminding, stop proving. Just fall back. Fall all the way back. And then watch. The people who really love you will feel the space and step into it. They'll call, check in, ask questions, care. Not because you forced them, but because they want to. But the ones who only stayed for what you provided, they'll let the distance grow. They'll let you fade. And maybe that'll hurt. Maybe it'll shake you. But in that pain, you'll find your power. Because you'll know. You'll have clarity. And with clarity comes strength. The strength to stop settling for less than you give. You see, the truth is always in the reaction. The truth hides in silence, in hesitation, in how quickly someone forgets you when you're no longer useful. People can't fake consistency. They can't pretend to care forever. Eventually the mask slips, the patterns show, and the reaction to your withdrawal, How they talk about you or how they don't talk to you at all says more than words ever could. When you stop chasing and they stop showing up, that's not abandonment. That's revelation. That's exposure. That's God clearing space for real love, real friendships, real energy. So don't be afraid of the reaction. Don't be afraid of the silence. Let people fall away. Let them show you who they really are. When there's nothing left to gain, because that's when authenticity walks in. And when you have the strength to let go of the fake, you make space for the real. You'll notice that the people who truly love you, respect you, and care for you, when you shift your energy, they won't let the space grow too wide. They'll meet you halfway. They'll feel the tension and they'll want to restore the bond. That's love. That's presence. That's real connection. But if you distance yourself and all you get is silence, then silence was always the foundation. You were just too loud with your love to hear it before. So sit back. Don't beg. Don't explain. Watch how they treat your absence. Watch how quickly you become replaceable in their life. That's not your loss. That's your lesson. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's God showing you who can walk with you into your future and who can't even handle your boundaries. Sometimes the gift isn't in what stays. It's in what leaves when you finally stop giving everything. That space will be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Growth always is. You spent too long giving people more than they ever gave you. You forgave too quickly. You trusted too deeply. You assumed they felt what you felt, but now you're stepping into a new version of yourself. A version that watches, listens, and moves in silence. A version that doesn't need to broadcast every disappointment or explain every emotion. Now you let action speak. You let time tell. You let people show you exactly where they stand when you stop standing for them. And when the reaction disappoints you, don't chase clarity. Accept it. Some people were never who they pretended to be. And the only way you could see it clearly was to step back. You don't need to beg for closure when their reaction gave you the answer. Protect your heart. Trust your intuition. If the energy isn't mutual, the connection isn't real. Let it go and let it teach you. This shift you're feeling, it's your spirit finally standing up for itself. It's your soul demanding peace over performance. And now, you see it all so clearly. You see who clapped for you when it didn't benefit them. You see who checked in without needing anything. You see who stayed when you went silent. That's your circle. That's your tribe. That's who you pour into. Everyone else, let them drift. Let their reaction be the farewell you never had to speak. Because your peace is too expensive to keep paying for with your worth. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not distant. You're discerning. And if someone can't handle your boundaries, they never respected you to begin with. So fall back. Let the silence do the talking. Watch their reaction. It will tell you everything. And this time, believe it. There comes a moment in your life when you have to choose between healing or repeating. That moment often comes in silence. When the world isn't watching, when the people who hurt you aren't apologizing, and when your heart is still bruised but slowly beating again. It's in those quiet hours that the temptation creeps in. The thought of going back to what's familiar, back to what you once called love, back to what broke you. But hear this, familiar doesn't mean safe, and comfort doesn't always mean care. Just because something feels known doesn't mean it's meant for you. Sometimes your soul is trying to move on and your emotions are trying to drag you back. Don't let memory rewrite the pain. Don't let loneliness convince you it was better than it was. You survived something that tried to shatter you. You found the strength to breathe through the pain. Stand firm in that strength. Don't let it be in vain. The old version of you might have settled, but this version of you knows better. And when you know better, you have to do better. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Growth demands a cost. It often asks for your comfort. It asks you to let go of people you still love but who never loved you right. It demands you choose peace over history and self-respect over nostalgia. That cost, it's heavy. But the price of going back is even heavier. When you return to what broke you, you are telling your soul it doesn't matter. You're telling your inner child that their tears were just temporary, but they weren't. Those nights you cried yourself to sleep weren't just phases. Those moments you felt small, ignored, invisible, betrayed. That was real. And going back, pretending it wasn't, is betrayal all over again. You don't owe anyone your regression. You owe yourself progress. You owe that broken version of you a promise that says, I'll never let us go through that again. Because healing is more than moving on. It's standing guard. It's saying no to what once felt like everything but gave you nothing. It's choosing you even when your heart wants them. Stand firm. Your future is too important to be sacrificed for a past that already tried to destroy you once. You weren't created to be someone's second choice, backup plan, or emotional punching bag, but when you go back to what broke you, you are placing yourself back in that role whether you admit it or not. You are shrinking to fit into a space you've already outgrown. And what breaks you once will likely break you again. Why? Because it's not just about them. It's about you. If someone couldn't honor your worth the first time, they won't magically learn how to respect you just because time passed. Respect is not learned in your absence. It's demonstrated in your presence. If they didn't fight to keep you, they won't fight to treat you better. And you, with all your softness and heart, deserve more than someone who only realizes your value once you're gone. You deserve someone who recognizes it while you're standing in front of them. Don't let the illusion of change pull you back into the same cycle. Don't confuse a missed presence with true repentance. Real change shows up in action, not words. Don't sell yourself short for empty apologies and shallow promises. Stand firm. You're not who you used to be, and you don't belong where you once were. Pain has a voice. It whispers when you're alone, reminding you of what you lost, what you gave, what you tolerated. But healing has a voice too. It's quieter. It speaks in self-respect and boundaries, in decisions made not from desperation but from strength. And you have to decide which voice you will listen to. When the late nights hit and the loneliness comes crawling, will you let pain lead you back? Or will you honor the voice of healing that tells you you've come too far to fall back now? The hardest part about growth isn't becoming someone new. It's refusing to become who you used to be. It's saying, even though I miss them, even though I still wonder, I choose me. That kind of strength, it doesn't make headlines. It doesn't get applause, but it changes your life. Every time you say no to the thing that once shattered you, you build a foundation that can never be shaken. It's not weakness to feel, it's weakness to go back knowing better. Be strong enough to remember why you left. And if they couldn't hold your heart with care the first time, they're not meant to hold it now. People will come back. That's the truth no one tells you. They'll come back when they see you healing, when they see you glowing again, when they sense that you've moved on. They'll text, they'll apologize, they'll reminisce, and it'll feel like everything you waited for. But don't be fooled. Not everyone who returns deserves a place in your life again. Some people come back to regain control, not rebuild connection. They want access, not accountability. You have to be wiser now. You have to ask yourself, am I going back because it's right, or because I'm afraid of moving forward alone? Am I opening this door because they've truly changed, or because I'm tired of waiting for someone new? Those answers matter because your future depends on them. Don't let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Don't let familiarity blind you to pattern. Love isn't supposed to hurt. Real love builds you, it doesn't break you. So if they shattered your spirit once, let your silence speak this time. Let your boundaries be your answer. Stand firm. It's not about pride. It's about protection. Your heart deserves safety, not survival. You remember the version of yourself that cried for them, that begged, that stayed silent to keep the peace, that bent over backward just to be seen. That version of you didn't know their worth. But now you do. And going back would be betrayal, not of them, but of yourself. You are not here to relive old pain disguised as love. You are not here to prove your worth to people who failed to see it the first time. You are here to honor yourself, to honor the pain that taught you, to honor the healing that reshaped you. Every step you take forward away from what broke you is a declaration of self-worth. It's saying, I matter. My peace matters. My healing matters. Let them call you cold. Let them say you've changed. You have. That's the point. You are no longer willing to be broken just to feel wanted. You are no longer seeking validation from those who never deserved access to your soul. Stand firm. The one who once cried for love is now standing in it, alone maybe, but strong. And that's everything. There's something sacred about choosing yourself, about no longer settling for less, about standing up for your heart when it whispers, please, not again. Because every time you go back to what broke you, you teach your heart that pain is acceptable, that hurt is part of love, but it's not. Love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't ignore your needs and then act surprised when you walk away. So why go back? Why re-enter the same storm, hoping the rain won't fall this time? You can't change people who don't want to change. And you can't keep fixing people who break you in the process. You weren't made to be someone's lesson. You were made to be someone's blessing. But you have to treat yourself like one first. That means saying no. That means choosing silence over chaos. That means walking away from what feels good temporarily but damages you permanently. The healing journey isn't about erasing the past. It's about refusing to repeat it. So remember who you were before the heartbreak. Remember how far you've come. And if you must look back, let it only be to remind yourself never again. Stand firm. You're not walking away from love. You're walking toward it. Your story is not over, it's just beginning. But you can't move into your next chapter while clinging to the last one. You can't build something new on the ruins of what destroyed you. Let them go. Let the pain be your teacher, not your master. Let the past stay in the past. Because every time you're tempted to return, remember the tears, the silence, the disrespect, the feeling of not being enough, and ask yourself, do I want to live that again? You deserve the kind of love that doesn't need a second chance to treat you right. You deserve someone who chooses you from the beginning, not after you've walked away. But none of that can come until you close the door that keeps pulling you back. So lock it, throw away the key. And when the doubts come, when the loneliness screams, when the memories haunt you, stand firm. Say to yourself, I'm not going back to what broke me. I'm not betraying my healing. I'm not forgetting the strength it took to leave. You've earned your peace. Don't hand it back to someone who couldn't handle your heart. This is your time. Stay strong, stay firm, stay free. When you've been through heartbreak, betrayal, or emotional damage, it's easy to forget just how powerful your growth really is. It's easy to romanticize the past and downplay your pain, especially when familiar voices resurface and old feelings creep back in. But the truth is, what once broke you should never be allowed the chance to do it again. You've come too far, healed too deeply, and learned too much to return to people, places, or habits that once made you question your worth. This journey hasn't been easy. There were nights you cried yourself to sleep, moments you doubted your ability to ever feel whole again, times when loneliness nearly convinced you to run back into the arms of what felt like love but was actually pain. But you didn't. You chose to rise. You chose to stand firm even when it hurt. That's strength. That's growth. And that's exactly why you must keep going forward. You see, life has a way of testing your resolve. The people who hurt you may not stay gone. Some might return with apologies, with promises, with words that sound sweet but are void of true change. You'll be tempted to listen, to hope, to believe. But the deeper truth is this. Growth doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes closure is you choosing yourself, even without an apology. Sometimes healing means shutting the door on things you once prayed for because they no longer fit who you're becoming. You are not here to beg for love or wait for respect. You are here to thrive in your peace, to honor your boundaries, and to protect your heart like the sacred treasure it is. That doesn't make you heartless. That makes you healed. The strength you show by not going back is a declaration that your worth is no longer up for negotiation. Remember who you used to be before the pain, the version of you that accepted less, settled for breadcrumbs, and tolerated being unseen. That person deserved better, and now you know it. That awareness is your superpower. It means you'll never again let anyone treat you as an option. You'll never again sacrifice your peace to keep someone close, the love you crave. The deep kind, soul-nurturing kind begins with how you treat yourself, and it grows in spaces where